Okay, I'm going to leave the poll up for another minute or two, and then we can end it. I appreciate you participating. We have about half of you jumping in so far on the poll. Obviously, the more information we have, the more appropriate we can make the presentation. So it's anonymous. We don't know who's answering what, so we're not going to use this information for any other reason except for today's poll. So I appreciate that. Anybody that would participate that would be fantastic. And I will be joined shortly by a number of folks from Newline who will help through the presentation and really carry the meat and potatoes of today's presentation. So again, I will leave that poll up just for another minute as we go through this. The agenda today, obviously, the first thing we want to find out as much as we can about who the audience is so we can shape the presentation in terms of what's going on. I certainly thank you for taking the time for joining us today and making your classroom more engaging with interactive flat panels, one of our many web sessions. My name is Glenn Collins, and I'm with CD Technologies. I'll be your host for the session today. And as I said earlier, joining me later will be Chris and Tim from Newline, who will be doing the majority of the heavy lifting in terms of content today. In today's session, I just want to give you a 30-second commercial of CDI, kind of who we are, the value we bring, the types of things we do. I'm hoping a lot of you already know that, but I will go through it real quick, and then we'll move on to the content for the rest of the day. I will then spend a bit of time on just the general benefits of interactive technology at the front of the classroom, kind of what the benefits, what studies are telling us. Spend a minute about interactive flat panels versus interactive whiteboards. For those of you who are not familiar with the differences, I'll try to give you some high-level stuff. And then I'm going to turn it over, as I said, to Chris and to Tim to talk in detail about the benefits, features and benefits of interactive flat panels in the classroom, and then we'll end by talking about what's new and how you can kind of take the next step if you're interested in doing something like that. I encourage this session, as in all sessions, to be as interactive as possible. Appreciate you, as I said, providing us information on the poll, and then throughout this session, any questions you submit, we will be able to answer as quickly as possible and get back to you. Any questions that get asked that we can't answer while we're on today, we'll make sure we get you an answer within the 24 hours. But the idea of this is to present you information that's useful to you. So if you have some questions, if you see something and have further information, by all means, jump in, try to make this as interactive as possible. So I thought I would just, as I said, start out with a quick commercial on CDI Technologies. We are an organization that has been serving the education community for more than 20 years, and we are really moving into an area of helping organizations in a much more complex way. And some of the ways we're doing that is bringing devices like interactive flat panels that can help you in a number of ways engage students in a more effective way. And really our kind of mantra is connect, deploy, and inspire, and that really is around helping you guys get the best-in-class devices, whatever the ecosystem is, deploy them in an effective way, manage them in a cost-effective way that utilizes your resources the best way you can, and then help you inspire students by providing the best tools, the best applications and software. So all of this we wrap our services around as well. So things like professional development are available, consulting services are available to kind of help you plan these deployments and your professional development needs, etc. That's just a little bit about CDI. Obviously, technologies, obviously we'd love to have that conversation even farther. And at the end of today, I'll give you a way of reaching out to us and talking to us further about how we might help you in other areas. Today is really talking about, the goal is to talk about the benefit of having interactive technology in the classroom, and specifically at the front or a teacher device as a display. So this is a recent study that I pulled some stats up on that talked about 97% of teachers surveyed, both primary and secondary, agreed that having that technology at the front of the classroom improved the learning experience for the students. There's not a lot of other things you could put in the classroom that give you that kind of impact. 53% said it increased engagement with the students. 53% talked about creating a more dynamic learning environment. So again, engaging the students, getting them to engage in a different way, creating a positive learning experience, and really encouraging interactivity and collaboration, which is a big part of the way we're changing the way we engage students in a learning environment. And then we talk about, oops, sorry, I think I jumped this slide. There we go. Some of the benefits of that technology: enhanced learning. It allows students to see and hear things in a more interactive way with multiple types of media. It allows them to be part of that learning session, whether they're directly utilizing that technology or engage with it using their desktop or notebook device, which they can then obviously provide at the front of the room. It gives the teacher much more flexibility in the classroom and the way they can present different medias. Whether it's a website, content, video, etc., it allows them to do those. And of course, interconnectivity is huge today, and all of the teaching tools we try to provide, and being connected to the cloud allows them to have access to the vast variety of information and tools that we utilize today for instruction. And of course, the integration today of all of the interconnectivity of all of the devices in the classroom to enhance education, be it the student computers, the microscopes, the cameras, video equipment, etc. It gives that whole different element to a learning experience. And then the proven effectiveness of utilizing things in terms of the improvement in comprehension, test scores, etc. So all of those are tested and proven. And what we're starting to see is the interactive flat panels really be the product of choice in the classroom today. And that's for a variety of reasons. It's a newer technology, obviously, gives you much more flexibility and a wider range of tools to allow you to teach. But it also, there's no need for, a specific projector with the right tools and the right lamps. You don't have to worry about the glare. You don't have to worry about controlling the lights. You don't have to worry about the shadowing when you're standing between the projector and the interactive light panel. So we're really starting to see, as the prices of these flat panels come down and the flexibility that they provide in the classroom in terms of mobility, so that we see a lot of these devices on carts, so that as everybody knows, the classroom has changed. It's no longer kids sitting in rows staring at the front of the classroom. Today, all of the furniture, all of the instruction in almost every classroom requires the flexibility to move the furniture, the seating arrangements into a much more flexible environment in terms of teaching in groups, etc. Having an interactive flat panel on a mobile cart provides you that flexibility. So we're seeing a lot of trend to move toward that. Oops, again, one slide too many. Sorry. Okay, apparently I'm, hang on for 1 sec. I have done this before, honest. I'm just a little trigger happy today. So back to where we're supposed to be. Apologize for that. So again, the difference between the two devices is the interactive flat panel is very inexpensive to deploy. You can mount them to the wall. You can put them on a mobile cart, move them around. Much higher resolution image. You don't have to worry about lighting as much as with the interactive whiteboards. Wireless is much more effective in these devices. And then from an ongoing maintenance and support standpoint, it's much more cost effective. You don't have to worry about changing bulbs. You don't have to worry about the projector going down, etc. It's a single unit. And Tim and Chris will talk to how easy it is for the warranty and service to get done on a flat panel versus a device that's mounted somewhere in the middle of a gym or something. Easy to set up. The other thing we've seen is the transition from interactive whiteboards, or the learning curve, for the interactive flat panels is very short, very easy to use, very flexible, icon-driven software. And for those of you who have interactive interactive whiteboard deployed throughout your schools today, and you're worried about teaching the teachers to utilize the new boards, a lot of the software is compatible. So if they're using smart boards or they're using Prometheum, et cetera, which is typically a single-use platform, you can import those lesson plans, their teaching materials into the software that's embedded in the interactive flat panels. So that's it for me. I am going to now turn it over to the real experts who are going to talk about their product and their devices. And Tim, I don't know whether Chris is on yet or not.
Yeah, Chris is on, and so he will join us here in just a moment. Chris, you can go ahead and take yourself off mute. There he is.
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
All right. I'm going to drive the slides for you, Tim. I promise to do a better job than I did for myself.
We got you. We got you. Well, hey, Glenn, thank you very much, and thank all of you for attending. We are very excited to be here, and we're very excited to partner with our good friends at CDI and to have an opportunity to tell you a little bit about us. And I have the perfect individual to start that off, and he's coming at us live from FETC in Florida, our fearless leader, our president of Newline Interactive, Chris Bradford. Take it away, Chris.
I don't know about perfect, Tim, but I will do my best. So, no, I just want to quickly echo first, Glenn, thanks for a great intro, great setup here. And guys, thanks everybody for taking the time. I know everybody's quite busy, so to hop on and give us a little bit of time, we really appreciate it. We'll try to make this a very effective use of a little bit of time here. The piece I'd like to talk about, you're going to see a great product demo here in just a minute from Tim. But what I want to talk about is a little bit of the second thing we talk when we're approaching customers. When you're making this kind of technology decision, we find that our customers are really doing two things. They're making a product decision, which is a pretty obvious piece of it. But there's also a partner decision that gets made. We talk about this a little bit more akin to being married than dating. Whichever technology ends up at the front of your classroom is going to be with you for 10, 15 years, maybe longer. So whoever you end up choosing, there's a partner that's going to be with you for many years to hopefully help service you and take care of you and make sure that's a good investment for you. Well, hopefully we want to talk a little bit about Newline being the right partner and with the right product as well. And then, of course, getting the service and support out of CDI, a trusted partner of yours as well. So that's the whole thrust of the discussion here. The slide you're looking at on the screen right now really speaks to our product philosophy. The keys to Newline's products that hopefully you'll see here in just a few minutes when Tim's going through the product to explain it to you, really the whole thing rises and falls on this slide. The two things we try very hard to do when we're bringing products out to the market are be easy to use, hopefully the easiest to use on the market. Why is that important? Well, why that's important is we think when these technology rollouts have happened in the past, some have succeeded and some have failed. The ones that have failed, and when we say that the products are not utilized as much as they originally might have been intended to be, we believe we know why. And we think it's because the products were simply too hard to use. There was too much training required, too complicated. It was very powerful software, but sometimes too complicated for a regular teacher to walk in the room and actually use effectively. So ease of use, we think, is critical, critical, critical. So hopefully as you're seeing this demonstration in a few minutes, you'll see from Tim the ease of use, and you can picture yourself or your teachers down the hall or your instructional technologist simply walking up and using the product without hopefully having to go to days and days of training. Now, we provide training, it's free, and we'll get into that as well. But hopefully the idea is it's extraordinarily easy to use. The second piece is we're completely non-proprietary. You say, okay, well, what's that mean? Well, what that means is we design our products to work in your world, not to force you to work in ours. Again, this is a place where we don't think that we know how you teach your students third grade English as a second language in whatever part of the country you're from. And also, you don't know what you're going to want to do in 2 years. You don't know which application, which software package is going to be the optimal one for you in a couple of years because it may not exist yet. So how could we possibly know if you don't know? So the idea is we build our products, we say with no fences. So we have a non-proprietary design, which lets you use any software that you'd like to use. Glenn alluded to this earlier. He's completely correct. We don't make that software decision for you. There's lots of solutions that we are happy to provide to you, but also there are plenty of districts that have their own software solution, and it's our job to then have our product work with that existing software solution. So really those two key things are what we really, really focus on at Newline when we're bringing products to market. So ease of use and non-proprietary. They're not the coolest new feature that no one's ever thought of. That's not why people buy Newline's solutions. They buy our solutions because they're really easy to use and they work in their environment. So that it sounds overly simplistic, but it's really not. So on the next slide, we're talking about another key to success here is the training and support piece. That is absolutely critical. You're seeing a little taste of this now. Tim is our head of training. Got a team of folks that work for him that do this on site and on webinars all day long. So he'll go into more depth on the training piece and you'll get a good sense of that. But the key piece there is that is all free. If we make products that are easy to use, we think it's a little bit strange for us to then go back and charge you for training. We don't think that fits. So any training that you need, we will provide, and that will be at no charge to you as we go forward as well. So the other piece now to kind of pivot a little bit on the next slide is the partner piece. I discussed the partner versus the product. The partner piece here is really key. I think if you guys have been, I'm at a trade show, as Tim mentioned, I'm at FETC down in Florida, one of the large K-12 shows here in the southeast part of the U.S., and there are interactive panels everywhere. I mean, my gosh, you stumble over them in every booth you walk in, it seems like. So as to an end user, to a customer, it can look like, well, gosh, I mean, all those are the same. They all are rectangular and you plug them in the wall and, you know, you touch them and something happens. So I guess they're all the same. Well, and in a lot of cases they are, frankly, but there's some uniqueness with Newline that we like to talk about because a lot of our customers end up concluding that, gosh, that's really the right long-term partner for me. So a couple of the key things here are, one of the biggies is the business model. Our business model is that we own the factory that produces these, and that's a real unique thing in the marketplace. And you say, well, okay, that's fine, but why do I care about that? The reason you care about that is plenty of these rollouts across districts are going to be over 2 and 3 and 5 years. Well, when we are the company that owns the factory, we can guarantee you a few things. We can guarantee you that when you're evaluating the product today and in future weeks and months, that we'll be delivering that same product or a direct descendant of it for the entire life of the rollout. So you don't get surprised halfway through the rollout and say, wow, I liked the product a year ago, but why is it so different now? Why does it feel different? Well, the reason it's feeling different is probably there was a change in the manufacturing company that produced that, and now you're stuck kind of halfway through a rollout, changing your training methods and changing some pedagogy even to now work your way back into a product that you bought already. With Newline, it's a very low risk option where we own the factory, they own us, so we're producing products out of the same factory that's going to deliver to you for years and years. The other piece that's a real benefit there is we always have in-stock inventory. That's another piece that may sound obvious, but to those in this marketplace, it's not. So whether we're talking about the beginning of the summer, middle of the summer, after the summer, geez, right now, kind of in the winter, Newline's lead time on product delivery is very simple. If we get a purchase order in the morning, we ship in the afternoon. We get a purchase order in the afternoon, we ship tomorrow, no matter the size of the order. And that's very handy. A lot of our customers appreciate that on tight delivery times when we're busy in the summer and need to get things done on a given day. Knowing that you always have the availability of the product is a very key to execute these rollouts in a smooth and orderly fashion. Not to come back and tell you, I'll be back with you in 12 weeks, hopefully, when I get some more product in. So there's a few pieces of the business model that really do matter when we talk to our end users in our education space that we seem to end up being the low-risk alternative for a lot of our customers to go choose. So I don't want to take too much time away from the product demo, but I did just want to establish that kind of concept of, as you're looking at technology solutions, we really do encourage you to absolutely look at the product to make sure it's a world-class product, and then also evaluate the company producing it to make sure you're getting a world-class partner. And when you can find both, gosh, it's a great situation. So without further ado, I'm happy to take any questions about any of that. If there are none, I'll turn it over to Tim to let him dive into the depths of the product demo.
Okay.
Tim, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris, and be safe out there at FETC. And thank you, Glenn. You can go on to the next slide. There it is. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Chris did, of course, as he always does, a very fine job of explaining, what truly makes us different from all the other vendors out there. And you do have choices, and you need to know when you are making the investment in the technology that you're going to have a partner to help you make that investment hold up. And that's really the story that we tell. Let me make sure. I'm having some folks say that they can't hear me. Glenn, can you hear me okay? Give me a verbal thumbs up if you can hear me okay.
I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
If anybody's having trouble, either send a chat or a question, and we'll see what we can do. I can
copy.
hear you.
I'm getting some verbal acknowledgements here. Okay, good. Okay, so moving on, and these next few slides, I'm going to move through these very quickly because I want to take just a couple minutes and actually show you just very briefly a little bit of what we're talking about when we talk about the product. But as we saw, Glenn, go ahead and just go back one more for me. Back to that slide real quick, and one more, and I think you got it. One more from the map. We'll talk about the map in a second. And it's coming. It's happening. It's happening, we promise. And there it is. This is one of these things that customers don't really know about us. I mean, it's interesting. Chris had alluded to this, but the fact of the matter is, when it comes to the global solution of interactive displays, for every 4 interactive displays that are sold around the world, one of those is ours. And that's a really big deal. Customers really don't know just how big we are. And to kind of put an exclamation mark on that, if you take a look over here on the right-hand side where it says a market leader, and I kind of wish this font was a little bit bigger on this, and this isn't me trying to be a jerk about it. I mean, smart is certainly a known quantity here in the United States. They are the 800-pound gorilla. And the thing about that is that if we look at the global numbers, they are actually not number 1. We are. And again, it's just one of those things that customers don't know about us, is that we're a lot bigger than people realize. Go ahead on to the next slide, Glenn, if you please. And what this really does, this just represents that we have our home office in Plano, Texas, which is where we're based. And then we do have a robust sales team that continues to grow so that we can continue to get our name out there and give others the opportunity to partner with us and get these solutions for their classroom. So that's really what this represents. And on to the next slide. Thank you, Glenn. And here we have our solutions. Now, one thing I need to point out, because this is, this slide is current, but one thing, the TrueCast product in the middle, you can put a big red X through that one. And the reason I say that is because TrueCast was our standalone casting box that you would hook up to one of our interactive displays, and then you could wirelessly cast to the display. Now that we embed that into the displays themselves, we no longer need that standalone product. So TrueCast is gone because we can actually do wireless casting directly to the displays without that. And so going from the left, TrueTouch X Series, which is our unified collaboration solution. This is something that lives in the corporate space because there are built-in cameras and microphones. So it's a one-stop solution for every type of meeting you could hope for. And then right next door to that, the TrueTouch. That's our bread and butter. In particular, the K through 12 space, where we have a specific product, which we're going to take a look at, called the RS. And that's one that is specific to K through 12. And then we have another series called the VN, which is an extremely versatile interactive display, and it lives in a number of different channels and a number of different spaces. IdeaMax is our comprehensive whiteboarding software, and we're happy to provide end users and educators a wonderful comprehensive space where they can create new material using this interactive display, but they can also utilize and leverage their existing content and have a great interactive space in which to use those things. So that's something that we're happy to provide for every panel that you own, along with a license key to Octopus from our good friends at Quizdom. It is a very good object-oriented lesson delivery and creation system. So for those of you coming off of some smart product or a Promethean product where you were standardized on Smart Notebook or Active Inspire or Mimeo or something similar to that, Octopus gives you a very familiar workspace where you can do the same kinds of things in the same sort of object-oriented manner, along with some collaboration tools and things like that. So that's something that we're also happy to provide you. And on to the next one, Glenn, if you please. And right here, again, I don't want to make too fine a point on it, but education is a very, very important market for us. And the other thing that this slide represents, and this, of course, is just a sample, but the other thing that this represents is that we've spent some time here telling you about who we are and why we're different and how we treat these things in the industry so differently from everybody else. But it's one of those things where you don't necessarily have to take our word for it. These are folks who were very happy to partner with us, and we were happy right back. And they made that choice to go with us and make the investment in what we have to offer. And this is a very good sample of that. But education is not the only space in which we live, as we've alluded to. Go on to the next one, Glenn, because the next slide also shows you that we do live in a number of other spaces. And we do and we're very happy to have a number of other customers. Some are some pretty well-known brands. Our good friends at Amazon and FedEx, and then the Dallas Cowboys in the sports world. Our good friends with the FBI and the U.S. Army, just to name a few. And again, these are additional organizations who have chosen to make that investment in what we have to offer to make their meeting and their breakout and their training spaces go that much further. And on to the next one, Glenn, if you please. And then the awards. Now, here's the thing about awards, ladies and gentlemen. We can be very real about this. These are things that are absolutely nice to have. I mean, we are very proud of the accomplishments and of the recognition that we've received due to those accomplishments. And these are not industry shills. I mean, we're talking about actual authoritative voices in the industry. With Inc. magazine, so for the second year in a row, we have ranked in the Inc. 500 top fastest growing companies in the United States. And then Tech Titans, for the third year in a row, we are one of the top 5 fastest growing companies in North Texas. We've had a 3-year run unlike any other company that Tech Titans has ever seen. So we are trailblazers in that regard. No other company's had a 3-year run like that. And so, yes, we are very proud of these accomplishments. But from my standpoint, ladies and gentlemen, what this truly means and what really winning these sorts of awards means is the Newline promise, that we deliver on that promise and that the products are what we say they are and that our company will do what we say we will do time and time again, customer after customer, year after year. And that's what truly winning these awards means, is that we are recognized for consistently doing that. So what I'm going to do now is that we've reached the end of my part of the presentation. Glenn, if you want to go ahead and give me control, and I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get the camera rolling. And I'm going to reward the time and attention that you've given to me by actually showing you now, now that I've actually told you what this is about, and Chris has told you what this is about, showing you what we are talking about when it comes to the actual products themselves, because I'm actually standing in front of an RS. So let me see if I can get this rolling, and let me see what I have here.
Tim, you gotta share your screen, right?
Yeah, copy that.
So you gotta go. Yep,
and I'm doing it, and I'm making that happen. And here comes the screen, and boom. And now I'm sharing. Fantastic. And let me get my camera up and rolling. Whoa, hello. And let me get, where's my menu? Let me have my camera. Here we go. And video is up. Okay. And Glenn, do we have my video on the screen? I can't tell from here.
No, actually what we have is your desktop. I'm looking at your desktop here.
Okay, here, let me do this. If I stop share, okay, there we go. Now do we see my video?
No.
You don't see my video. Okay.
We see that CDI webinar screen that you're looking at.
If I can share, I want to be able to share my camera. Okay, you know what? I don't know. I might not be able to make this work. Oh, I thought I had it, but I'm not sure. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to make the part work. Talk to me, Glenn. Talk to me.
Well, just put your camera on your desktop.
Oh, you know what?
We're sharing your desktop. We can see your.
Hey, I have an idea. How about I just put my camera on my desktop? That works. Let me get the other camera rolling. Hang on. Let me get the other camera and the other camera.
And then you gotta share your screen again because we've lost you. So.
Okay, stand by. Stand by. And
thanks for your patience, folks.
Thanks for your patience, folks.
We
Okay.
do know what we're doing, honest.
We do. We do, but unfortunately Zoom is, I'm going to blame it on Zoom. I'll just do that. I'll just blame it on Zoom. Okay, Glenn, this is a no-go. This is a no-go. I apologize. I'm not going to be able to make this happen. I don't want to spend any more time on this. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the good news. The good news is that there will be opportunities to see other product demos and things of that nature down the road. And in fact, you know, and I don't want to steal too much of Glenn's thunder, but CDI also has some good pricing for some bundles that we have available. And I'm going to go ahead now and turn it back over to Glenn. And Glenn, I'm going to throw this up. I'm going to go ahead and give you control again. And you are now the host. So I'm going to go ahead and boom. You now have it. If you want to go ahead and put your deck back on the screen and close this out, it is all yours, sir.
Sorry, I had muted myself. So you should be able to see my screen again. Hopefully that,
yep,
unfortunately, it was too bad Tim couldn't share because, and by the way, one of the things we'll talk about at the end of this is being able to have that kind of interaction one-on-one. So if you saw something today that intrigued you and you're interested, by all means, we can set up a meeting where he will be able to share exactly what he's doing. He will be able to do a deep dive into the features and benefits of the actual product, utilizing the web, etc. So really, I can wrap it up. We hopefully give you some insight into what was happening. It's, again, unfortunate we couldn't do a little more detailed on the products and services and utilizing it and how it gets used in a classroom. But again, we offer that as a one-on-one for anybody that's interested. The recording of today's session, if there's anything that you want to share with your peers, will be emailed to you. A link will be emailed to you within the next 48 hours. Again, if you want to set up a one-on-one, or if you're interested in getting a unit for a 30-day trial at no cost to you, we are more than happy to make that happen on your behalf. And if you know who your CDI rep is, that would be the first easiest way for you to kind of get this engaged. If you want to send an email to info@cditechnologies.com, that's another way. In the link email that comes out to you for the recording, there will be another way to get back to us in terms of, I want more information, provide me some pricing. That's our 1-800 number. You can call and ask for the rep that looks after your district or school, because they're all assigned to someone at CDI. So you will have an individual that looks after your geographical area and certainly your district or school. Above and beyond that, and then anybody who attended today will get a special bundle offering that we have sent out to them by email in the next 24 hours. So again, listen, I won't waste any of your time, or I appreciate your time that you've spent with us today. I hope you found it informative and interesting. I apologize for my inability to move the slides around in an effective way. I'll work on it.
One more thing, Glenn, real quick.
Yes.
I just want to also point out, for those of you who are in fact interested in seeing a webinar demo, we can make that happen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make available to Glenn. We have an online scheduling tool that we use for that. So I'll make the link available to Glenn so that he can use that. And that makes it very easy to schedule these things. And so that is something that I will provide to Glenn, and then it will be available to you as well.
By the way, I did get somebody telling me they could see you. So
yeah, unfortunately, what was happening was they were seeing me from my laptop camera, not from my PTZ. It wouldn't let me switch. I don't know why it wasn't. I don't know why it wasn't doing that.
I do have a question, and I encourage anybody who has a functional question about the board to type it in, and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. I have a question. It said, does the board take a screenshot, and are you able to write on it, or can you type a document and draw it at the same time, and draw on it at the same time?
Okay, so the answer to both questions is yes. Now, on the first part of that question, there are numerous ways to have something on the screen, snapshot, and or annotate and snapshot that something on the screen, and then save it to wherever or share it with someone. So that is something that is in fact very possible. The second part of that is it's going to be dependent on software, but if what you're talking about is, let's say like I have a Word document, just as an example, and I put that on the screen, can I type on that Word document and can I also annotate over it? Now, doing it at the same time, that's a little tricky only because if you're using the annotation tools, it'll be one thing or another thing. You're not going to do both things at the same time, but you can easily switch back and forth between I'm typing on a thing and now I'm annotating over a thing. And Word is one example because there are very good native annotation tools baked into Office. So that's one very good example of doing that. And when I'm doing training with teachers, one of the things that I really dive into is how do I have something on the screen, some content, and how do I stretch that content further by using whatever tools are available to me. That is a big part of the training that we provide.
So Tim, maybe the other things we can do is you could talk to a few of the most common questions you get. I think about file accessibility, different ecosystems. Is it Office 365, Google Docs?
Right.
And then maybe talk to a little bit about compatibility with smart and interactive whiteboards.
Absolutely. So let's start with the beginning piece of that is whatever ecosystem you live in, there is going to be a solution for you to be able to leverage the technology with that content. Now, your best bet when you can do it is using a native annotation tool that's baked into the program itself. A real good example of this, and we just talked about it, is Microsoft Office. Got to give Microsoft a little credit where credit's due here because they've lived in the pen and touch game for a lot of years. And as such, they have really refined those tools to make them not only comprehensive and easy to use, but they work very, very nicely in this big interactive space. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the big three, as I like to call them, are three very good examples of having some annotation tools right there ready to rock and roll. So if you're using content in that environment, it's easy to make that happen. If you live in the Google space, Google isn't quite there yet in terms of the pen and touch game, because if you fire up Chrome, you're not going to have a native annotation tool in Chrome to work with. Now, you can go to the Chrome Web Store, and there are some homebrew extensions that you could use for Chrome. There's one that I've played with that I think is okay called PageMarker. PageMarker, I'll admit the writing isn't the smoothest thing in the world, but the nice thing about it is that the ink actually sticks to the page. So when you scroll, the ink actually scrolls and it doesn't just like stay in one place like an overlay would. So that's one possibility. But another possibility is if you're standardized on Windows 10, Windows 10 has an annotation tool built into the OS called the Windows Ink Workspace. And that's another way where if you're using programs that don't have those native annotation tools built in, you can use the Windows Ink Workspace, use the screen sketch feature, snapshot that thing, and then very easily annotate. And this is the big key, save and share that thing, because you can save it very easily as a picture on your computer or your network space, or you can copy to the clipboard and then paste that into whatever, a Google Doc or an email or whatever the case may be. And then there are, of course, the native annotation tools inside the TrueTouch itself, which are particularly useful when you want to annotate over live video and things like that. So there are a number of ways to make that happen, and depending on what you want to accomplish and the software that you're using, the method that you use will be determined by that. And that's one of the big things I talk about during training. But the other piece of that, and one of the questions that I got is because it popped up on the screen, was, what about using my flip charts? What about using my smart notebook files? So here is the thing about that. If we're talking about smart notebook, Octopus is capable of opening smart notebook files, but I'll tell you, we can be very real about this. That can sometimes be a hit or miss proposition depending on the version of smart notebook you're coming off of. There is nothing that will open a flip chart. Again, these are proprietary formats and they are not open source formats. Therefore, there's just not a lot of tools out there to make that happen. However, here's the however, the thing that you can do, and you have to, it's an extra step, but it is something you can do, is whether you're in Smart Notebook or Active Inspire or Mimeo, you can have something open, like, so I'll use flip chart. I'll use a flip chart as an example. You have a flip chart open, then you can go to the file menu. In the file menu, there'll be an option to export. and you can export those flip charts, smart notebook files, what have you, into a file format known as an IWB file, stands for Interactive Whiteboard. It will also, in parentheses, be referred to as the common file format. And when you convert those to IWB, that is a file format that can be used by a number of different programs. And so that is one possibility when you are transitioning away from that ecosystem into this completely non-proprietary space, that you can export those files into something that can be read by other programs. So that is one of the best ways to handle that, because it's something, even if it's not 100%, it's still a very good alternative for making that happen. But keep in mind too, while I'm on the subject, that while your license is still good for Smart Notebook or what have you, you can run Smart Notebook on your computer that you run on your TrueTouch, and everything will work fine. In fact, we actually have a video on our YouTube channel that proves that, what Smart Notebook running on a TrueTouch. So while your license is still good, and while you are in the process of transitioning away from that, you still have options for making that happen. And there you go. Any other questions?
Good, thanks, Tim.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I had a question about connecting to Wi-Fi. So I
Right.
typed yes. I mean, obviously
Right.
that's a given. I know there's a couple of ways to do it, but certainly
Absolutely.
yes. You
Absolutely.
connect
The
in.
panels are capable of doing Wi-Fi. They also have Ethernet ports. So you can go either way. And when the panel is on the network, then you have embedded tools. There's an embedded web browser that you can use. Obviously, then wireless casting is a much nicer proposition at that point, of course. So yes, when you have the panel on the network connectivity gives you access to things without requiring you to use a computer. So that's one of the nice things about it. And we don't squeeze a lot of software into these panels, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we don't force you to live in a specific ecosystem. So we keep a minimalist approach there. But the things that we have are things that are convenient and easy to access and quick to access, particularly if you have a situation where maybe the regular teacher is out, there's a substitute teacher coming in. That substitute teacher does not have access to the same stuff. But if the panel's on the network, you've got all kinds of things you can go to, an embedded whiteboard or web browser. You can stick a thumb drive into one of the USB ports, use the embedded Office viewer to pull up documents, and use the embedded annotation tools to work with those documents. So yes, there's a lot of other functionality inside the panel itself that goes beyond just having some Wi-Fi.
I got a couple more questions. One was, can multiple devices connect to the unit at the same time, i.e. teachers and different students?
So if you're asking me if you could do like a split screen, like I got one device on this half of the screen and another device on the other half of the screen, no, but you can have multiple devices connected at the same time and then very easily switch back and forth between those devices. So it is very easy to do that. Now, if you're interested in a situation where you actually have multiple devices displaying on the screen at one time, there are other sorts of casting solutions that you can add that would actually be based on a computer, not the panel, but on a computer where you can make that happen. And I believe that the montage solution that we actually go with our panels right now, I think there are some tools there too, though I have to admit I haven't explored that part too much because montage is relatively new. But I know that there are other solutions out there that make that happen. But no, you're not going to plug multiple devices in and then at the same time like have corners of the screen where those devices are happening, but you can very easily switch back and forth between devices at will. It's very easy to do that.
And that kind of feeds into the question Zach had. He said, I'm working at a public library and we're looking at the use of this technology for our public meeting spaces. Mm-hmm. We have small businesses and students using these devices, or their devices and tablets and laptops. Can you speak a little too about casting? We're looking for something that is accessible to many different devices and easy to learn and to use.
We use Montage. That is our current casting solution. It's very robust. One of the nice things about it is that it is cloud-based. So it's very, very easy to access, and it's not so dependent on the infrastructure. As long as the internet gateway is good, the casting has a tendency to be really solid. And you can access it, if you're on a mobile device, you can access it using the Display Note app, which is available at whichever app store you've got. If you're on a computer, you can either go through a browser, and there's a URL that's on the splash screen that tells you where to go, or you can also use Display Note on a computer as well, which I actually recommend because it's this way, and you get best use of the bandwidth when you actually use Display Note. So you don't have to if you're on a computer, but that's the recommended way. And so yes, that is the solution that we've got, and so it handles a number of different devices. It also supports there is support for AirPlay for iOS as well, and things of that nature. So yes, it's very easy. Whatever device deployment you've got, there are easy ways to use Montage to cast to the panel.
I don't have any other open questions, but I do have maybe you could share, Tim, when you're actually doing a session with teachers
Yes.
and you're showing them the features, maybe you could pick the top 3 where you get oohs and ahs when you show teachers a specific feature.
So let me tell you, where I really get the oohs and ahs, and it's so funny because these are things that are so fundamental. I'm not laughing about it. It's the kinds of thing. It's not always the grandiose thing, right? It's not always the big idea. Sometimes it's the little fundamental things that make all the difference. One real good example of that, the one that comes up every time, is when I've got Octopus open. And one of the great things about Octopus is that it gives you an opportunity to choose the type of background that you have. And so it doesn't just have to be this white space. No, you can actually have lined notebook paper. There's handwriting practice paper. The teachers go nuts for the handwriting practice paper. Several different types of graph paper and plotting paper and things of that nature, along with a pretty good screen annotation mode known as glass mode, where you put it in glass mode, you've got your Windows desktop, you can pull up some documentation or web page, and then use the Octopus tools over that content. So those are the things that get the oohs and ahs, the things that leverage what teachers use every day for the lessons they teach and for the curriculum that they run. Things that speak to that, that tie directly to that in very fundamental ways. Those are the things that get the oohs and ahs, and that's one of the big examples of that.
And then I got one more, and that is in places where you've actually displaced interactive whiteboards. So where you've put a panel up and you're doing, and you're engaging teachers. What's the big thing, again, that jumps out that the advantage over the flat panel versus interactive whiteboard?
The displays are big and bright, amazingly bright. You can configure your classroom in whatever way you need to, and students can be sitting in position wherever, and everybody will be able to see what's going on, in the back of the room, in a corner of the room. That's a very big deal, that you can actually see it. The fact that you don't have to calibrate the thing every day. The fact that it's plug and play. You plug it in, you go. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we can be very real about this. If what we're really talking about here, when we talk about this kind of investment in the technology and making sure that it's adopted properly, it's about having something that you don't think about using. You think about teaching, because you got students in the room. There are people in the seats and their eyes staring at you, or staring somewhere anyway, right? So what can you execute on right now and do it seamlessly? And that's what the interactive flat panel is about. It doesn't get in the way. You don't focus your energies on monkeying around with a piece of technology. You focus on the teaching. And that's really where the fundamentals lie in terms of the value of this. Is it's there, you turn it on, and then you go. And that's all there is to it. And you don't think about this thing that gets in your way. It integrates seamlessly with what you need to accomplish.
Perfect. Great. Well, listen, Tim, I appreciate that insight. That's great. We don't have any other questions. I appreciate everybody's time. By all means, you have the email address on the screen. If you have more questions, fire them off. And we'll be happy to help you. Again, I encourage anyone to try to get us to help you with a 30-day trial, and I encourage you to reach out to your sales rep and find out about the latest special pricing that we can offer you. Certainly our experience in engaging with Newline has been that they are not only a great partner for all the reasons they pointed out today, but they offer a very competitive pricing. And we often can match anything else that is on the market in terms of competitive product. So again, thank you very much for taking the time on behalf of myself, Newline, and CDI Technologies. Appreciate your time and look forward to speaking to you again.
Have a great rest of the week, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.